For me, I see Bitcoin as a great store of value. I buy Bitcoin and I hold Bitcoin.
You buy Bitcoin?
Oh, yes.
You have Bitcoin?
I do. So I want to buy and hold. I encourage people to buy and hold. I encourage them to save Bitcoin for their retirement, for their future. And that's because as the Congress spends trillions and trillions of dollars and is flooding our economy and the world economy with US dollars, there's no way that we cannot debase the value of the US dollar. So I worry about having all of our retirement monies denominated in US dollars. I think one of the strongest stores of value for the long run is Bitcoin.
So that was Cynthia Lumens, the senator of Wyoming, talking to CNBC about how she's pushing for Bitcoin integration, not just in her state, but in many other states and in the US as a whole. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today I have an interview from CNBC interviewing Cynthia Lumens, the senator of Wyoming. And I wanted to break this interview down because she's talking about a lot of interesting subjects involving integration, regulating without stifling innovation, real-life use cases. She talks about how Bitcoin is the best conceivable store of value there is, and some other interesting subjects that I think we should go over. Now, if you want to check out this whole interview, it is on cnbc.com. I'm just going to be showing you a couple clips from it that I thought more people needed to see. And also, guys, if you're in the United States, happy 4th of July, you know, happy Memorial Day. Don't go too crazy today. The Bitcoin price decided to do a little firework action here for the 4th of July, so we'll see if that continues. You can see where we are forming this uptrend still that I was talking about, so hopefully we can break through resistance and maybe test the top of this trend line. But yeah, you know, we're hitting resistance here. A little bit of a pump, nothing too special. So let's get into this first clip. Now, in this first clip, she talks about what she's doing for regulation in her state, how those regulations can set a template for other states looking to integrate Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And what I think is most important is how important it is to her to have regulations placed but not stifle innovation in the blockchain space, because she understands that innovation is, what is it going to cause blockchain and DeFi to change the world? And, you know, you can't do that if your government sets up 10 layers of barbed wire around. Then, you know, it becomes hard to innovate. It becomes hard to make progress. So it is very important what she's talking about here. So we'll roll that clip.
Well, I founded it because Wyoming has been a leader in developing financial institutions to work with cryptocurrency. And because Wyoming was the first state to establish a set of laws that are now being used to charter new banks in cryptocurrency and take them through the Federal Reserve process and integrate them into the traditional fiat currency world, I took an interest in this issue. Well, we certainly want to comply with things like the anti-money laundering laws. We want to comply with the Bank Secrecy Act. But we also want to make sure that we're not stifling innovation in the way it's implemented. We don't want to over-regulate or differently regulate traditional banking and non-fiat currency banking, because we want them to have a level playing field. We don't want to pick winners and losers. We're waiting. We think we've got about 45 days, I would say, to wait to see what the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City says about Wyoming's work to examine these kinds of banks, these special purpose depository institutions, so that can become sort of the model, the template for other institutions of its kind. We know that states like Texas and Nebraska are looking at Wyoming's laws to perhaps get in on the same kind of opportunity.
And I agree with pretty much everything she's saying in that clip. I know some people aren't too fond of the idea of banks getting involved with crypto because essentially they're what we're trying to take power away from. But I feel it's a necessity. Now, how much control over crypto are we going to give to the banks? Hopefully not that much. But I think they need to be involved in some way or another. Not everybody in America is going to be willing to have their value stored on, I don't know, a site that could get hacked, even though technically your bank could lose your money, or on a cold storage wallet that you could lose, even though, technically your bank could lose your money. Yeah, we don't need banks, but people think we need banks, so I feel it's a necessary evil to have them getting involved in some way or another. Now, more importantly, she's pushing the fact that we need guidelines, but guidelines that don't restrict innovation in the space, which I 100% agree with. And she's also talking about Texas and Nebraska already interested in what she's doing in her regulative template that she is working on, I guess. Anyways, moving on to the next clip, she talks about how Bitcoin is being realized for its use cases already, how it is already the best store of value that has ever been conceived or created, and also how it is being utilized in a country that is in dire need of it, El Salvador, and how eventually we're all going to be in dire need of it because we are debasing our world reserve currency. So, roll that clip.
I would like to see cryptocurrency like Bitcoin become part of a diversified asset allocation that are used in retirement funds and other opportunities for people to save for the future. So whether you're an employee that has a retirement fund, I'd like to see those retirement funds invested in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that are good stores of value. But I'd also like to see individuals be able to use Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies of their preference that allow people to use their cell phones to send stores of value, Bitcoin, to each other. Now, for example, El Salvador just decided to make Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. The reason they did that is because 22% of El Salvador's economy comes from payments made by people working in the United States and elsewhere to their relatives in El Salvador. To me, since there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever mined, it's a good store of value because it has defined scarcity. And the way that it was set up, so it unlocks some Bitcoin every 10 minutes, fewer and fewer over time until all 21 million have been produced. It's easy to see conceptually why it's such a good store of value.
And just bringing back up this fact again about why Bitcoin has value, the fact that there's only going to be 21 million of them, and hey, we expect this technology to be around for at least 100 years, at least as long as the US dollar has been the world reserve currency, right? And if my memory serves me correctly, I think the last Bitcoin is going to be mined, or the last half of a Bitcoin, whatever one it is going to be mined around the year 2140, so about 120 years from now. In the first 12 years of Bitcoin being around, we have mined 18.5 million Bitcoin. 18.5 million Bitcoin are already in circulation, and now in the next 120 years or so, there's going to be less than 3 million mined. So this is about 90 85% of the entire supply has already been created. And that is why Bitcoin has value. And it is such a simple concept, yet they want to hide that fact from you because they don't like the fact that something so simple can make something so valuable. In the next clip, and this is one of my favorite clips, she talks about Ethereum, she talks about blockchain technology, smart contracts, and, well, this is the integration that we've been waiting for. We don't necessarily want banks or states or governments controlling Bitcoin. However, we do want banks and states and governments utilizing blockchain technology and smart contracts. So she brings up some of the use cases and then says something pretty interesting at the end of the clip. So roll it.
For me, it's just Bitcoin.
Okay,
That's
no
the only
Ethereum,
one,
no.
Correct. The only one I really understand is Bitcoin.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that Ethereum might not have benefits as well. Well, there's a long way to go in that area because it's expensive, but we have to begin to innovate in that area to drive the cost down. So, for example, if I wanted to make a contract with you and make sure that contract wasn't abrogated or changed over time, we could put the contract on the blockchain, and that version of the contract would remain inviolate. So if there were ever a dispute about what that contract said, you and I, as the author and the recipient, the people who signed it, would have the very same version, and we could refer to it on the blockchain. So it memorializes all kinds of transactions, and it can memorialize documents for use on the blockchain. So I think we're going to find that the potential uses for blockchain technology and distributed ledger are as varied as the individuals who are thinking about how to use it.
Absolutely. And that is why it is important that we don't set restrictive regulations on this new emerging technology, because if there are too tight of restrictions, we're going to restrict innovation and restrict progress. This space is moving so quickly, and you can say that since we're moving so quickly, that is the reason that we've run into so many issues, so many stepping stones, bumps in the road. The opportunity that this technology provides wouldn't be possible without the risk, and it wouldn't be possible if we weren't taking those risks in order to achieve what we think is possible. I think it is extremely important that people like Senator Cynthia Lumens understand that, and that is why I am extremely happy that she's mentioning that on a CNBC interview. Hopefully, it seems like she's spreading the word of that to other people that she talks to, other senators, other representatives from different states. I like that she's pushing that idea, because that is perhaps the most important thing to keep in mind, is that we cannot restrict innovation in this space. Alright, and now the last few clips I just kind of bunched together. I'll just quickly go over what she talks about. She brings up the fact that she wants the US dollar to remain the world reserve currency, despite saying earlier that she knew that we were very obviously debasing our currency. So this is interesting because she doesn't exactly clarify, but what I get from that is that if we were to keep the US dollar as the world reserve currency, we would have to stabilize it in some way. And what better way to do that than to have it backed by Bitcoin? If we were to continue having the US dollar as the world reserve currency, we would need to do something to fix the inflation issue. And perhaps the most interesting part about this is when she talks about how Wyoming is tackling the issue of Bitcoin mining and carbon emissions. And, well, yeah, just play that clip because it is very interesting.
It's really important to me that the US dollar remain the world reserve currency. So one of the ways we can do that and continue to compete with currencies like the digital Yuan is to have our own central bank digital currency. The benefits of having the dollar as a digital currency is privacy, because we know that China is going to want to know where their digital wallets go, where the digital yuan is being spent. One of the things I notice about those hearings is that you frequently have members of Congress reading questions off a pad that were written by someone else, because the member of Congress really doesn't understand what they're asking, and sometimes what they're asking is not the right question, because even the people that are helping them don't understand this issue. So I absolutely think that we have to start with education. You know, I know that there's a lot of talk about that. We know there was research at the University of Cambridge that showed that Bitcoin mining uses about 40% renewable energy. And in the non-Bitcoin mining economy, it's only 12%. So Bitcoin mining is already more environmentally adapted to non-carbon emitting energy sources. But in addition to that, we're seeing some real innovation in that field. For example, in my state of Wyoming, where oil and gas is produced, when you drill an oil well, a gas well, for a while it's not hooked up to a pipeline. So the product, especially gas, is being vented into the air. Well, now these Bitcoin miners are pulling in a trailer, hooking up to that vented gas and using it to mine Bitcoin. So they're actually
mining to help mining.
Exactly. And doing it in a way that keeps carbon out of the air and uses it to produce another product, Bitcoin. So there's a lot of innovation that's happening behind the scenes.
So basically, they're drilling for natural gas, and it takes a little while for them to get the pipeline set up once they found it. So people are going there with their trailers, setting up on top of these natural gas leaks, and using that gas to power their Bitcoin mining. So not only are they removing the natural gas from the atmosphere, or I don't know if you're removing it, but you're utilizing it, it's not going to waste, but they're also getting life-changing technology out of it. They are mining Bitcoin, which I think, personally, is more important than how much carbon you're using when you're mining Bitcoin, because nobody seems to care about their carbon emissions when they're running 47 devices in their homes, including an air conditioner, including 4 air conditioners possibly. So, you know, people are full of shit. And I'm glad that she realizes that. And despite people being full of shit, they are still pushing lower carbon emissions in Bitcoin mining. And listen, if you're going to push for lower carbon emissions, you should push for lower carbon emissions in everything you do. Don't just specifically target one thing. Alright, but hey, I think this was a very important interview. I really hope she does more like this. I think it's important to have this kind of information out there, especially coming from a state representative. And it is interesting to see what Wyoming is doing to push Bitcoin and blockchain innovation. So, that's pretty much all I had for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found any of this information helpful, please consider hitting the like, hitting subscribe, and turning on my post notifications. I really appreciate the support, and I will see you all tomorrow for my next video. Peace out.